Hey guys, Brian here with MFreeFX. Today we're going to take a quick look at the top 10 free mixing and mastering plugins, which will be a great benefit to all of us composers, producers, beat makers. So get ready, we're going to check them out. Alright guys, so yeah, welcome. Today we're going to cover the top 10 free mixing and mastering plugins. Now before we go further, if you like plugins and you like deals, I know we all do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You got to stay tuned to all the latest content, all the latest deals. Also head on over to the site if you want to check out the latest really heavily discounted deals going on there. Now, so we're going to start with some that I have on my mastering bus. So the first one is called Youlean Loudness Meter, and this measures in LUFS, which is loudness units relative to full scale. Look that stuff up. It's a very essential part of knowing how, different mediums have different kind of loudness standards from like iTunes, Spotify, or video games, mobile apps, and stuff like that. This is very helpful for monitoring that. It goes beyond what your DAW is capable of just by using the meters and everything. Let's check out how it works. So you see all the real-time data streaming as we play our track. It's going to get a little loud here. See how we're starting to go in the red sometimes here. Now this is where we're going to have some problems. As you can see, as soon as that big brass hit, we had some clipping here. So this will always notify you about that as well. And then there are also some presets. This says Film, TV, Gaming. Different regions have different standards. Like I said before, for loudness and everything, for when they release things like Spotify, gaming, certain films, TV industry and everything, they have standards so that, everything's standard across the board. You don't go in one TV show's like blasting and clipping and the next one's like too quiet. So this has presets that will automatically monitor that kind of stuff and let you know if your mix is up to snuff for the rest of the stuff. It's really cool. And then for online streaming, if you want to go to the pro version, it has standards for YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, all kinds of stuff like that. Very, very helpful tool. But so let's bring it back to another plugin. We noticed that we had some clipping here. Obviously, we don't want that. Now you can just turn down your master volume or something like that, add a compressor, but what I really want to do is add a limiter. So there's a free limiter here. It's called limiter number 6. Now, it's a totally free limiter, and it works fantastically. This is just as good as many of the paid limiters that I have. So let's check out that same section where we had some obvious clipping and see what happens now. It still has that nice spike in volume, but we do not have any clipping. You notice in Cubase when you have that, it shines up red. Obviously red is bad. So again, I could still use to turn it down a bit. But nice thing is this also has a compressor here. Adjust the gain. It has true peak limiting and everything, and it has a protection here to completely eliminate any kinds of clipping, but still give you like a nice loud sound. So really cool. That's limiter number 6. Now, also on my master channel, there's two different plugins from this company of Voxengo. This one is called SPAN, S-P-A-N, and it is a spectral analyzer. So it's important, in addition to monitoring my loudness and everything, you want to make sure your frequencies are all okay and there's not too much clashing or certain frequencies resonating out of control and everything. So you can just throw SPAN on there, Voxengo SPAN, and then if you have some frequencies that are clashing, go ahead and throw on the Curve EQ from the same company. Looks fairly similar, and they pretty much go one and the same. Now let's turn on the EQ and check everything out. So you saw how simple that was to use. You just clicked add a band, and then you can adjust the curve in between, and there's different kinds of curves as well. Incredibly useful. A lot of free EQs do not have both a spectral analyzer like this, and then allow you to use all those different bands. They're much more basic usually. So yeah, already we've monitored our loudness. We've made sure that this track may meet the correct standards for release on different platforms. We've eliminated clipping, and we've we can compress certain things with that same limiter. We can compress if we need to, bring those lower dynamics up and the louder ones down. And then we've monitored our our audio spectrum with the spectral analyzer, and then we have EQ'd. Now, obviously, I'm using the EQ on the master. But it's going to be more useful if you go in, put that spectral analyzer on each of your instrument tracks. Then you can specifically monitor for clashing frequencies with the horns, with the strings, with your bass, kicks, whatever it may be. Very useful stuff, and pretty much a necessity for getting a really professional, polished mix. All right, so let's move on to the drums I have coming in later on in the track. Now, what I did is I threw SPAN on there, and then I threw this on there. This is called Bittersweet by FLUX. Now, this is a tone and transient shaper, but it's very, very simple to use. If you don't know, how to use transient shaping or anything, this breaks it down so simple. Obviously, it's called Bittersweet, and over to the right we have bitter. Over to the left we have sweet, which will be soft. So let's check out what it sounds like when I'm going to start with it in bypass, and then we'll mess around with this setting and see how it transforms those drums. Here, as soon as I turn off the bypass, it makes the hits a lot softer. Now back to default, and let's hit it over to the bitter side. Now you can hear those drum strikes are more pronounced, and when they're over on the sweet side, they're very, very soft, more in the background. So again, you want those drums to be nice and punchy. So this is a subtle tool, but is very helpful for bringing those drums up, making the attack more tight and precise. So that's Bittersweet, tone and transient shaper. So simple to use, just two separate sides to it, bitter and sweet. Now let's move on. So while we're still on our drum track, let me show you another EQ. This is called the TDR Nova. It's a free EQ. It's a parallel dynamic equalizer, as they describe. We just may know it as a fairly simple EQ, but it's completely free. So we can use a combination of SPAN to analyze our audio spectrum, and then use this to EQ as light or as crazy as you want. Now I also have a solo drum here. Let's check out that one. So it would be right here. Let's throw on the SPAN and then EQ that a bit. So it has some high kind of tom sounding drums that I want to stand out a bit more, and they may get drowned out with these huge walls of epic drums. So let's find that, throw that on there, let's check that out. So maybe cut the bass a bit. I know it's kind of extreme to have treble all the way up there, but cut the bass a bit, turn those up in volume, and bring out those, you know, those really nice light kind of bongo sounding hits. Use the big thick, you know, the ensemble drums for the bass and the low end, and bring out those highs of that. It's just a solo taiko. Now, what I've done now is use the Infected Mushroom wider plugin. It's pretty funny. You see how right here it goes to 100% width, and then you go to 200% out there. It can get pretty extreme. A couple of these I covered in a previous video. So the MSI stereo bus compressor and wider were covered in the top 10 free plugins I did for you guys a few, probably a couple months ago. So we'll link to that in the description as well if you want to check that out. But just using wider real quick, again, brings out the width of those, those solo taikos. Usually you want to have your drums, pretty right front center as far as panning is concerned, but it's really good to experiment with that. Say I want these, those light kind of bongo hits to be more, more wide, and have just the low end ensembles up front and center. So that will help them stand out even more, as well as using that EQ and analyzing the audio spectrum. I can hear them a lot more now than before, and again, you can also go in and change them with the Bittersweet transient and tone shaper right there. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, next I want to go in on an actual drum loop and show you the free plugins from Brainworx or Plugin Alliance. So we have Clean Sweep, BX Solo, and then the sub filter. So this is a drum loop, and it has some deep booming resonant bass. So we can use like a low pass filter to have give it kind of electronic feel, where it sweeps up from the low to the high, kind of like this. And of course, you can easily automate that within your DAW, or you can just use it as both a high-pass filter and low-pass filter at the same time, or just turn on the high-pass filter. If you want to remove some of that booming bass from that drum ensemble, which is action strikes, you know, or a lot of us are familiar with that, so it can be kind of overly resonant in those lower frequencies, especially when you combine it with other drum tracks. Maybe you want to eliminate that, just have that top end punch easy with the high pass filter. Now, the Brainworx Solo is a really nice plugin. Another stereo widener, but this also allows you to isolate the signal just down to mono. So let's check that out. Turn off the filter for now. Right now, we just turn that down from stereo to a mono signal. And then you can also widen it. Now, this can be really helpful. A lot of times it's, you know, it's best to mix things in mono, get them sounding as good as they possibly can, just as a mono signal. You can also swap the left and right channels, solo just the left or right channel for those stereo instruments, and then also, of course, widen it up to a wider stereo image or make it completely in mono. Very useful, very simple. Free again, as always. So then we have the Brainworx sub filter. Now, this is going to work best on, you know, deep sub bass lines, but this one has kind of a boomy bass, so let's check it out. So you heard when I first had it enabled, it's pretty extreme, pretty resonant, too much there. Adjust the gain in and gain out. And also there's a resonance, so you want less resonance, go from low, high to extreme. And right now where I just set it, just a light touch, it really brings out the sub frequencies of those drums. You hear when I go from low to extreme, it really brings out the resonance there. Obviously, because that is the resonance slider there. But again, add some really nice low end and resonance to those drums. Where before we removed it with the high pass filter, if you want to isolate that drum track and have more of that booming bass when you've, you know, finished down your mix, you want more low end, really nice tool right here, sub filter. Also, of course, this works exquisitely on electronic tracks with sub bass, sine waves, stuff like that. 808s, really good stuff here. Can bring your mix from okay to absolutely, you know, demolishing your subwoofers. Really cool stuff there. All right, so this next one is a powerful but very simple plugin called Neutrino. A lot of us are familiar with iZotope, the Neutron EQ suite, and then their Ozone mastering suite. So obviously Neutrino is a light version of Neutrons. They have Neutron Elements, which is the lightest version that's paid, and then we have this Neutrino, which is a free version. Let's check it out right now. You can see it's super simple. Different things to select from voices, basses, instruments, and drums. Just 4 different categories, and then you can adjust the amount of the effect and then the amount of detail. It can be very subtle, but you can absolutely hear a difference. Let's check it out on these epic drums again. It's completely off right now. Now it's easier to hear it once more drums start coming in. So I'm going to start from right there. I open the spectral analyzer so you can see what it's actually doing. It's auto-saving right now. Okay, so when I play it, I'm just going to have it play, a measure or two with the plugin off, and then you'll see me go down here and turn it on. So let's check that out. So it's very light, but you can hear how it enhances that sound. You can see specifically in this frequency here, and you don't even really have to see it, you can absolutely hear it. There's a certain resonance that's there that may be natural in part of the sampling, but it does kind of resonate too much. So of course you can go in and EQ it, but for a more simple solution, and it also applies some light multi-band compression, some effects like that. It just kind of shapes what it says right here. I'm highlighting. It says focuses processing on transient detail across all frequencies. So it's going to be different between which setting you select. But that was just the drum setting. Very light, but it made it sound better and a bit more professional and polished, and just kind of evened it out there. Now lastly, probably my favorite one because it's the biggest one. I'm not going to be able to cover everything in here, but this is a plugin suite from MeldaProduction. I've actually owned these for quite a while. I own some of their paid plugins too, but if you go to MeldaProduction, there's a free plugin suite. Again, if you like them, please support this developer. So we have like EQs, compressors, distortion, saturator, filters. The one I use the most is the bandpass filter, just because it's so simple. It's completely free. They have a flanger, frequency shifter, phaser, tremolo, vibrato. All of this stuff is free. Stereo expander, that one's not free, that's paid. They have, spectral analyzer, all kinds of stuff. Guitar tuner. Really, this is probably the most all-inclusive free collection you can get. I'm not demoing it because there's just too much here. There's like 30 plugins or something. But again, I use these all the time. Specifically, literally the bandpass filter is my go-to just because it's so simple. And it's just, it just works, and it's completely free. So MeldaProduction, biggest one here, and I use them all the time. So yeah, that is the top 10 free mixing and mastering plugins. Obviously, this was just a very quick look. So please go and support these guys. Download the plugin, check it out. They're going to have some good tutorials and walkthroughs. A lot of them have really nice GUI, just like tooltips that pop up as well. But that was just a quick, rundown how you can use them in context. Obviously this was for an orchestral track, but they will do just as good for pop, rock, beats, for producers, for film composers, all kinds of stuff, even, audio engineers and post-production sound and stuff like that. And again, remember, completely free. If you're tired of your stock plugins, you're tired of, not having the right tools, these are very, very top-notch tools. And some of them are pretty surprising that they're completely free. Again, if you download them, you like them, please go support the developers, because it's pretty cool they give this stuff away for free. So yeah, again, that was what you can do with some free plugins. Really enhance your mix, make it more professional, get it ready for streaming, whatever you want to do. Again, remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember, head over to the site, check out the deals, check out the plugins. I know we all love music, we all love plugins. And who doesn't love saving money or getting stuff completely free? So thank you guys so much for checking it out. I will see you guys next time. Thanks again. It's been Brian, Be Free Productions for VSTBuzz. See you guys later.